It's Friday, November 19. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The government has allocated $16 million for mitigation and cleanup efforts for the Christmas period. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the funds will be given to each member of Parliament. He made the announcement in the lower house this week. The Prime Minister explained that the projects are a part of the Enhanced Mitigation Program, which is funded through the Constituency Development Fund. Drain cleaning has been allocated $2 million.
So there is some allocations for small rehabilitation and patching. The program will also do drain cleaning of gully courses and the removing of blockages in critical drainage areas or gullyways.
Mr. Holness says he has heard the public's concerns about the issue of waste collection, but some of the monies earmarked for this had been reallocated towards managing the COVID-19 pandemic.
When we say we have made those choices, it is not without consequence and effect. You see the consequence and effect of a resource reallocation or redirection, and we are seeing it in the pile-up of solid waste. So, Madam Speaker, granted we're going into a celebratory period in Christmas where people are looking to enjoy the season, not just with their family, but to see that their surroundings are clean. So we have made a special allocation, not a very large allocation, but that could contribute to the collection of solid waste in communities, particularly in routes that may not be well served by the NSWMA.
The Prime Minister says changes have been made to the National Works Agency's capital flood mitigation projects.
These projects are typically funded under the GOJ's capital budget, and works are executed on the basis of national significance, regardless of any specific constituency in which those projects may be located. We will not be, Madam Speaker, we will not be able to do many of those projects. But what we have done in the mitigation projects, the last three that we have done, we have taken on the Sandy Gully. But we will be looking within this area. We may do something in Clarendon, and definitely we will look at St. James to see what we can do in the interim. So these would be small, quickly deployed capital projects that are not constituency specific, though they may be in a constituency, but those would be led by the NWA.
The Medical Association of Jamaica says some of its members are awaiting response from the Ministry of Health and Wellness to assist in administering COVID-19 vaccines. MAJ President Dr. Brian James says some doctors with cold storage facilities have expressed their interest and are ready to start vaccination efforts. He notes that some doctors are frustrated with the lack of response from the ministry. On Wednesday, Dr. Melody Ennis, Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health, said only about 15 of the 100 private doctors announced are currently administering the vaccines. It has been a good week for Jamaica's tourism industry. 6 cruise ships have docked at the island's ports throughout the week. The latest cruise ship, Ada, is scheduled to call at the Falmouth port in Trelawney on Friday. Speaking in Parliament this week, Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett said this is further proof of the growing demand for Jamaica's tourism product.
The arrival of the Emirate Princess, Madam Speaker, provides an opportunity for the soft launch of the Artisan Village at the Hamdan Wharf with 10 artisans. And I wanted to make this point, Madam Speaker, because both Prime Minister and the Port Authority and ourselves have worked assiduously to create this signature product for Jamaica. It is true that we have had the period of the pandemic itself, and a hiatus has resulted from that. However, we're back on track. We're cleaning it up nicely, and we had pop-up projects there for this first trip, and the 700 million Tourism Enhancement Fund Finance Village is themed, Madam Speaker, to tell the story of Falmouth and other Jamaicans. And the visitors who come there, they will have an opportunity to share in local food, local drink, local art, local craft, and local culture. This is very important, Madam Speaker, because the Artisan Village is supposed to provide artisans in situ that will enable them to execute on designs while the visitor tours and visits the rest of the island.
He assured members that arrangements have been made to ensure strict adherence to the coronavirus protocols, including managing the movement of cruise passengers. Minister Bartlett commended all the stakeholders who have worked together to make this possible. Innovation as a concept refers to the process that an individual or organization undertakes to conceptualize brand new products, processes, and ideas, or to approach existing products, processes with ideas in new ways. But what does innovation look like in the world of investment? The matter was discussed at the Explore Do Business Jamaica Virtual Investment Conference, which was streamed on PBCJ's social media platforms.
Innovation for us here at JAMPRO is about transformation and expansion. It's about working with investment projects that build on the strength of Jamaica and certainly identify new solutions. So, where there's a need, whether locally or internationally, we try to meet that need with innovation in a sustainable way. So that's for us, innovation. One of the initiatives that we have embarked on internally is to work with a number of private equity firms, key government agencies like the UDC, in a way to aggressively identify projects that we can bring to the fore to help facilitate and promote. And through this effort, we have encountered a number of innovative projects, as we scan the landscape. So, if a number of these projects are half implemented, we are, full on our way to a great success in Jamaica. I'm indeed positive about that.
And where are these projects, and where is this innovation coming from heavily? If you could pinpoint probably a couple of sectors that are, showing, the biggest pulse where innovation is concerned, what would those be?
Yeah, so clearly what's happening around energy with the announcement of the IRP and the planned, energy mix. Certainly renewables, in the area of renewables for energy is one big area. When we look at other areas like, the area of the blue economy, ultimately expanding out to deep sea farming in a sustainable way, I might add. Right. Clearly the area of health and pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, leveraging cannabis and psilocybin mushroom. You've been hearing, about that, and that in itself presents opportunity. And of course, our global digital services sector, right, on which we have software development and indeed the fintech services. And I cannot not say a key sector without mentioning the agriculture sector. There's vast amount of opportunities there, leveraging technology to change the landscape of agriculture in Jamaica. So I'm indeed excited by the offering, particularly in that sector.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is predicting growth in Jamaican economy for the 2021-2022 financial year, but it's not ruling out risks posed by possible natural disasters. We'll hear more about their latest projections for the country, along with other market updates in the Business Report with Gabriel Thompson.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is predicting growth of over 8% in the Jamaican economy for the 2021-22 financial year and moderate growth of 3.5% for 2022-23. In a statement issued on Wednesday following its recent official staff visit to the island, the IMF said the Jamaican economy is recovering from pandemic strains. It says tourism has rebounded to near 70% of pre-crisis levels despite 2 COVID-19 waves this year, and other sectors have picked up as well. The IMF also noted that real gross domestic product (GDP) in the second quarter of 2021 is 14.2% higher than the same period in 2020. Despite the growth projection, the financial institution says risks to the outlook are significant. It says, quote, new COVID-19 waves in Jamaica or abroad could lead to a more prolonged disruption of tourism, trade, and other capital flows, end quote. The fund says another risk is posed by uncertain duration of global inflationary pressures, citing sharp rises in world food and energy prices that have helped boost year-on-year inflation to 8.2% in September, well above the central bank's target range of 4 to 6%. In its statement, the IMF said natural disasters continue to be an ever-present risk and notes that a faster pace of vaccinations at home and abatement of the pandemic in Jamaica's main tourism market are upside risks. It emphasized that as the pandemic recedes and recovery advances, Jamaica should restart debt reduction and rebuild buffers given the country's high susceptibility to external shocks and risks to debt sustainability. The IMF is encouraging policies that focus on boosting growth, which it says has been low in the last decades, enhancing institutions, and tackling the high levels of poverty and crime. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, November 18, the US dollar sold for an average $156.77. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $126.53. The pound sterling traded for $213.13, and the euro sold for an average $181.57. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 3,675 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 90 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 31 declined, and 15 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 16 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, Caribbean Cement Company Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. JMB Group Limited was the volume leader with over 1.4 million units, followed by Dolphin Cove Limited with over 1.2 million units, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited with over 1.1 million units. In market data for oil, prices dropped below $79 a barrel on Friday as a fresh surge in COVID-19 cases in Europe threatened to slow the economic recovery, while investors also weighed a potential release of crude reserves by major economies to cool energy prices. Brent crude was down $2.44 or 3% at $78.80 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude was down $2.30 or 2.9% at $76.72 a barrel. Both Brent and WTI are set for a fourth week of declines. And with that, we close this extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
Jamaica's forests are the main repositories for biodiversity. They provide food and are home to plants and animals, some of which are only found in Jamaica. Sections of our forests are often cut down for wood, farming, housing, and other activities. In a bid to tackle deforestation, all Jamaicans are being urged to plant trees. RED Plus refers to reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation in developing countries. The program looks at conservation and sustainable management of forests in a bid to reduce carbon emissions. Minister Darrell Vaz says the Forestry Department has also identified $240 Jamaican to support alternate livelihood activities for local communities.
During the fiscal year, 27 proposals identified and valued at over $133 million were awarded. The remaining amounts and projects will be identified and awarded in 2021. 109 hectares of denuded lands were reforested across the island, surpassing the target of 100 acres.
Additionally, Minister Vaz noted that for the financial year, a total of 671 employment opportunities were provided for 667 casual workers from rural areas or communities close to forests.
The 667 casual workers from rural areas, communities close to the forest in the areas of plantation, maintenance, reforestation, inventory and volume assessment. This represents an 18% increase over the 569 casual employment opportunities for the last financial year.
Minister Vaz told the House that it's anticipated for the current fiscal year, the Forestry Department, among other things, will be embarking on the reforestation and maintenance of 150 hectares of forests.
Forestry Department will continue to provide support to the tree planting program to meet the targeted 3 million trees over 3 years. Under this initiative, the agency will be coordinating the provisions of seedlings to meet the needs of the Government of Jamaica-led planting program, as well as general distribution to the public. There will also be some training for Hope interns over the period. This year signals the 25th anniversary of Jamaica's full commitment to advance climate action after ratifying the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in January 1995.
The Forestry Department will also assess the 2,500 hectares of mangrove forests to complete the bill to amend the Forest Act 1996. In regional news, Tobago's capacity at the COVID-19 intensive care unit has reached its maximum. And according to Acting Medical Chief of Staff at the Scarborough General Hospital, the situation can get worse if numbers continue to increase. Ayana Carter has more.
Dr. Victor Wheeler expressed his concern about bed space for the treatment of COVID-19 patients at the Scarborough General Hospital. He explained there are 5 beds in the COVID-19 ICU, with 3 isolation areas in the accident and emergency department if there is a spillover of cases.
The only area where we are close to maximum is at the COVID ICU, where we have 5 patients filling up the 5 beds. We have an additional person in one of the 3 spaces for COVID ICU patients. But when we finish the facility up at the 4th, we would have a total of 11, which should be adequate for the moment.
6 additional COVID-19 ICU beds will become available by the end of November. However, Dr. Wheeler warned that this could change at any moment.
If persons don't get vaccinated and get COVID, we may find that all will be filled, and that would exceed our capacity.
Secretary of Health, Wellness and Family Development, Tracy Davidson Celestine, noted that additional COVID-19 related deaths can be prevented if persons adhere to public health protocols and vaccinate.
There will be more movement, and with movement, there is a higher chance of the virus spreading as a result. But what we are more concerned with is that we do not have any significant untoward circumstances resulting in deaths of the people of this island. And as I indicated, we could prevent that if it is that we are vaccinated and fully vaccinated.
The Secretary said COVID-19 vaccines are available and encouraged persons to get vaccinated. Ayana Carter, TTT News.
In Grenada, a group of concerned citizens gathered at the Attorney General's office on Thursday seeking a repeal of regulations in relation to COVID-19 vaccines. More details in this report.
A group that calls itself Grenadians for COVID Justice is taking the office of the Attorney General to task. Last week, it was the leader of the Grenada Renaissance Party, Martin Washington Edwards, informing the nation that he filed an injunction against Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell and Health Minister Nicholas Steele, seeking to halt the current vaccination campaign while challenging the named government ministers for infringing on the rights of Grenadians. Just about 3 p.m. Thursday, the group, most of whom are employees who refused the COVID-19 vaccine and were sent home from various workplaces, entered the office of the Attorney General, located on Blaze Street, to demand a withdrawal of Regulations 10, which they say mandates vaccination for Grenadians. Leading the charge was Earl Maitland. He says government has a moral and legal responsibility to test the vaccine or its contents before making it mandatory for people.
Right? We are here to speak to the Attorney General so that she would use her knowledge and her discretion to actually say to the government that this makes no sense, that these laws are actually not in conformity, or these regulations, I should say, are not in conformity with the Constitution. The government has an obligation to honor the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. They should not be able to pass any regulations or any laws that contradict the Constitution, especially the fundamental rights and freedoms of the good people of Grenada, especially persons here.
The group was not successful in seeing the Attorney General, Mrs. D. Forrester. Maitland deemed the present situation where people are sent home from their jobs and cannot sustain themselves like a pandemic of poverty.
I was told that the Attorney General is not at the building, nor is the Solicitor General. My information was taken, and I was told that I would be contacted for an appointment. I do hope that this happens sooner than later, because we are in a state of emergency, and not due to the pandemic, but due to the unconstitutional actions the government has taken against the people.
As a concerned citizen, he expressed disappointment with some of government's recent decisions, one of which include no quarantine requirement for fully vaccinated people entering the country.
One of the most unintelligent stance that the government has taken is to remove the quarantine period for vaccinated persons who medical experts abroad and locally would have informed us they will be able to spread the virus. Talking about persons coming off of a tourist boat and walking through the town of Grenada and elsewhere. How is the government going to control that if they cannot control a quarantine facility? It is only going to endanger our lives.
The group distributed leaflets to passers-by as a means of reminding people of their constitutional rights. Christelina John, GBN News.
In St. Lucia, one senator is calling on members of parliament to take the business of the people seriously. Senators, as well as the president of the Senate, reacted to news of the opposition leader's pay being docked after a long absence from the House.
The decision by House Speaker Claudius Francis to dock the pay of the leader of the opposition is receiving support from some members of the upper house. Chasney had been away on vacation for over 100 days following his party's shellacking at the polls. Government Senator Lisa Jawaier called on members of parliament to give due importance to matters of the people.
If we are elected by the people to represent them and we take 100 days out of office to provide that representation, I mean, we had key bills being passed in the House during the absence of the leader of the opposition. We had the decriminalization of up to 30 grams of marijuana, the expungement of records of persons who now have a chance to be reintegrated back into society. And you would think that he would come and share his views on that, because a lot of members from his constituency would have been impacted by such a decision, but he decided to stay away. So I am fully in support of the Speaker's decision. I believe that if the explanation that the leader of the opposition gave was unsatisfactory to the Speaker, then it is his House, it is his authority to rule in the manner in which he did. So I really am in support of what the Speaker did, and it really serves as a lesson for us to really take the business of the people seriously.
Independent Senator Norani Aziz believes the House Speaker was executing his duties as he should.
I have no personal opinion on that. I expect that the Speaker would have deliberated and consulted extensively before he has made that position. I think we're all subject to those rulings at the end of the day. There are rules and regulations that govern how we conduct our affairs as parliamentarians. And at the end of the day, once the Speaker has made his position and his statement, we accept what that is.
Some have criticized the Speaker's citation of precedents in other jurisdictions in carrying out the order. Francis, who delivered a thorough explanation before announcing his decision, also referenced the standing orders and the Constitution. President of the Senate, Stanley Felix, says the Speaker did his job impartially in stating his position.
They would be totally wrong in arriving at that conclusion because law is set by convention and by precedents. And basically we rely on precedents throughout the Commonwealth. And we are a member of the Commonwealth and we have the same system. And so basically we can rely on those precedents set in different jurisdictions.
All right, and we've already seen pushback from the Mr. Southern. He's already said publicly that he doesn't believe the House Speaker. Basically, the House Speaker may have overstepped his authority. What are your observations on the House Speaker's decision?
Well, I mean, he's certainly within his right to take a different view of the matter. At the end of the day, the choice is his. He could decide to act contrary to what was prescribed by the House Speaker, and if it does so, then the House Speaker will act in accordance with the law. And if the member from Make It South believes that his rights have been trampled, then he knows what to do.
The opposition leader has until November 30th, 2021 to provide a proper excuse for missing House sittings. Alan Chasney has since pushed back at the order, claiming that the House Speaker was overreaching. Chasney has the dubious distinction as the only lawmaker in the OECS to have his pay docked because of such a prolonged absence from the chamber without a proper explanation to the presiding officer. Joaquin de Plessis, HTS News Force.
And I will consciously and impartially discharge.
In sports, the Jamaica Football Federation has filed an appeal to football's world governing body to protest the officiating in the CONCACAF World Cup qualification match between Reggae Boyz and the United States on Tuesday at the National Stadium. A late header from Damian Lowe could have potentially earned Jamaica a 2-1 win over the Americans, but Costa Rican referee Juan Gabriel Condron waved the goal away, ruling that Lowe had fouled Walker Zimmerman as both players jostled for possession. But several football experts, including former referees, have agreed there was no foul and the goal should have stood. Now on to the pitch with cricket. The West Indies will be seeking a maiden test victory in Sri Lanka when their two-match series bowls off at Reggae on Sunday. The contributions with the bat will depend a lot on Vice-Captain Jermaine Blackwood, who spoke about the challenge ahead during Thursday's Cricket West Indies virtual media conference.
The West Indies will be going into the first test versus Sri Lanka without match practice due to their warm-up fixture being totally washed out, but Jermaine Blackwood does not see this as a major disadvantage.
I don't think we're affected at all, to be honest. The guys are in good spirit. We recently left from the Caribbean and we played two best of the best games, so most of the guys get a proper hit out in the middle in Antigua, but you know, since we reach here, some rain and stuff, but I think the guys are in a very good place. We trained a few days because, you know, we had rain and the guys really look good. And today again at practice, you can see, you know, the guys adapting to the surface as quickly as possible. And very pleasing to see how the guys are going about their work at practice. And I don't think that practice match is going to end us at all.
As with most South Asian cricket-playing nations, spin is a major component of the bowling attack. According to Blackwood, the Windies are prepared for that and have some quality in that department as well.
Well, we know that Sri Lanka have some quality spinners, but we as well have quality spinners. So I think everyone is very looking forward to the challenge ahead because we know that we're gonna expect a lot of spin. So we are very prepared for that.
Team morale and togetherness is said to be high in Gaul, with support for the younger players high on the agenda.
My cricket is in a very good place in terms of what my head is in a very good place right now. Batting wise, I think I'm ready, to be honest. I'm batting very good. You know, I'm very focused right now. So it's just time to just, you know, go out and play cricket and just execute my plans right now at this moment. But as I can tell you right now, I'm fully focused for these two test matches.
The Jamaican middle order batter is himself prepped and ready to go. The first test begins at 12:30 a.m. TT time on Sunday. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sports.
And that's the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Pleasant viewing.